Lately, there has been major public concern with the effects of secondhand smoke on the health of non-smoking individuals.
A variety of cancers are caused by cigarette smoking, lung cancer being the one that we are most familiar with, but certainly esophageal cancer, there's cervical cancer.
How devastating it is and damaging to the lungs and other parts of the body as well.
But is a federal ban on smoking in public areas really the best solution? Dr. Joe Lorenz explains how all smokers have fundamental constitutional rights, regardless of health risks they may impose.
The 14th Amendment guarantees the right to freedom of assembly, which means that you can congregate in places that are open to the general public. Since you're taking a business today where the smokers can assemble freely, and tomorrow you're turning it into a place where they can't assemble freely, you're infringing upon the right of them to assemble where there's no public purpose. One of the basic precepts of legislation is that it has to serve a public purpose. It can't favor a narrow minority. It has to be something that benefits the public as a whole.
This is America, and we should be able to do what we want. The government should not control us.
You're only affecting the smokers here. You're taking the class of people and targeting them or subjecting them to a restriction that doesn't apply to the rest of the general public, when again, you don't have a public policy argument to support that.
Clearly, a federal ban would infringe upon smokers' rights. However, many individuals, including non-smokers, psychologists, and medical health experts, believe that a ban should not be enacted simply because it would be an abuse of federal power.
I think the restaurants should do whatever they want to do, because this is America and the people decide how they want to run their own business. Once the government starts, stepping in and getting control over, smoking in a restaurant, they're gonna start controlling, alcohol and just everything else.
I think a smoking ban should be up to the personal business and the type of business you're in. Like, if you're in a small little family restaurant, I don't see a need to smoke inside because I personally work in one and I hated sitting in that smoke all day. But if you're in a bar situation or restaurant or like a two-story restaurant, there should be a smoking and a non-smoking section.
I don't believe it's the government's place to say where we can and cannot smoke. And I don't smoke, but yeah. I know if it was related to something else, I'd be kind of angry.
Smoking in like real designated places, like certain bars and things, should be allowed because that's what's common in bars.
I would be okay with restaurants having a smoking and non-smoking section.
I have no problem. They can do whatever they want with their life. That's none of my business.
My personal opinion is that it's not the government's place to do something like that.
If 36 of the states have enacted it today, there's no reason why there wouldn't be a 37th and a 38th. I don't understand why there's an argument to support the fact that the U.S. government should step in on the remaining 14. If 36 would have done it today, it seems logical that the federal government would step back because, in theory, they have other things to worry about and allow the 37th, the 38th, and the 45th, and the 46th to decide what they want to do in the same manner. There's no inertia, there's no momentum that requires the federal government to say, okay, we'll finish the job. The U.S. Constitution was designed to identify only those laws that were reserved to the federal government. Everything else is left to the states to decide.
There are so few issues that have been left to the states anymore that this seems like a logical one. Theoretically you could move to a different state if it really bothered you that much, or, if you don't want to be that extreme, you can always avoid the restaurants where smoking is legal. You don't have to go to bowling alleys or bars if you really don't like being in smoke. Nobody mandated that you go there.
Typically, it's your choice, it's my choice, whether I walk into a restaurant where they're smoking.
Now, I think it is a good position for restaurant owners or smoking, facilities owners to say, well, we think we'll get more customers if we make it non-smoking, and for those people to decide on their own level, on the most local, personal level there is, no, we don't want smoking. But I don't know that making a sort of a blanket statement about smoking from the federal government is going to be either effective or that it's really their place.
It's easier for people to voice their opinion on a local level than it is for them to do so on a national basis.
But from the point of view of whether it's right or wrong, I'm not sure, because if it's your store, should the government be able to tell you that you can't smoke in your store or can't create a place in your store where people can smoke?
Often the argument is used, well, that way we're not supporting, tobacco use, etc. But with that, it carries significant risk because what we've just done then is push tobacco use into the very environment in which it's most dangerous for non-users, which is the home.
A federal ban would also seem to have drastic economic consequences for store and restaurant owners.
My boss banned smoking from the restaurant, and because of that, he lost tons and tons of business.
Tons of people come in. It's mostly students, some of like the faculty will come in on campus. We go through cigarettes like mad. That's it.
Many restaurants that have already banned smoking on an individual basis receive frequent complaints.
All the time. Yep. Small smokers, yeah, for sure.
So their attitude towards a federal ban?
I think it'd be a terrible idea.
Opponents of the ban are also quick to point out that several local ordinances, including the notorious MSU 25-foot rule, are relatively ineffective.
I think the smoking 25 feet away from the door is kind of ridiculous.
I don't know why 25 feet, because it's really not far enough away. It's just far enough away to be annoying for them and not far enough away to help us. So I think it's sort of an arbitrary value.
I don't know. They must have just picked a random measurement and decided that was good because people can still smoke 25 feet away from the building, and I know, like, the mentor in 2 Middle, it just wafts into her room. They felt it was a safe distance, but it's, yeah, it was a bad choice on their part. But anything more than 25 feet away from the building would practically be on the street for here, so loud.
I think maybe like not sitting right next to the door, but definitely if I'm sitting like on the stoop or something, I think that should be allowed.
Since these local rules cannot be enforced, several people doubt the effectiveness of a potential federal ban.
I'm not sure if the federal ban would really work. I guess you can ban something, but how are you going to enforce it, I guess? Enforcing it's always the problem. You can make your bans, but if you can't back them up. I don't know, they don't really back them up here, so I don't see how they're going to back them up on the federal level.
I don't think a federal ban in the dorms would be too much more of a fact because honestly I think I'm more scared of getting kicked out of school than I am of law enforcement.
I really don't think the law is really going to do anything in the minds of the citizens who are smoking because a lot of the places already, like restaurants, have no smoking policies and people are just going to stand outside and smoke anyways, even if there was, like, that's public property right there, but people are still going to disobey it. Even if people can't even walk 25 feet away from our dorm room, then why would they follow a law saying that they had to, they can get ticketed right here too, but they still choose to smoke.
In my experience, a federal ban is a difficult way to enforce a lot of different concepts because these things have different impacts at a local level. You're going to find a fundamentally different attitude about smokers' rights in North Carolina, where the tobacco industry is very heavily involved in local commerce, than you will in Vermont or California.
Evidently, a nationwide ban on smoking is not the solution to this problem. Instead, those concerned with potential health risks should focus on alternative ideas.
We've never been really very friendly towards smokers about helping them understand how they themselves can minimize secondhand smoke, to understand what the risks are to their loved ones, and how to make sure that they're not exposing them. And I think that's been a big missing point in our prevention activities is that we've almost entered a realm where we have vilified the smoker, and as such, the one most likely to join our effort, we've entirely antagonized.
So whatever action is eventually taken, on a federal level, smokers should always have the right to light.